Well, on to the details now. In an unannounced visit to the Ukrainian capital, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken promises more support as Russia gains ground. He asserted that what Russia should and must pay for a rebuild what they have destroyed in Ukraine.
Making Russia pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. What Putin destroyed, Russia should and must pay to rebuild. It's what international law demands. It's what the Ukrainian people deserve.
Also, Blinken, who is visiting Ukraine after Congress passed the long-delayed $61 billion aid package, held meetings with a slew of leaders in Kyiv, including President Volodymyr Zelensky, Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal, Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, and civil society representatives. He also expressed U.S.'s intentions to use its power to seize Russian assets, as leaders demand to ensure uninterrupted assistance from Western partners.
Our Congress has given us the power to seize Russian assets in the United States. We intend to use it. We're working with our G7 partners to see that Russia's immobilized sovereign assets are used to remedy the damage that Putin continues to cause. The G7 can unlock billions of dollars and send a powerful message to Putin that time is not on his side.
Well, also, the group of 7 countries froze around $300 billion worth of Russian financial assets soon after Moscow's offensive of Ukraine in 2022. Since then, the EU and other G7 countries have debated how and whether to use the funds to help Ukraine. The United States has proposed seizing the assets in their entirety, but Europe has balked, citing risks to the euro and massive legal repercussions. More recently, Washington has pushed for using the assets as collateral to provide loans for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Blinken also reiterated Washington's unwavering support to Ukraine as the country's forces face their toughest situation on the battlefield for months.
We're going to help you hold off Russia's attacks, make it harder for them to strike you, and keep the Black Sea open so you can keep growing your economy and keep helping to feed the world. We know that time is of the essence. That's why, just 1 minute after Congress approved our massive aid package, President Biden sent ammunition, armored vehicles, missiles, and air defenses to Ukraine.
Well, Russia carried out a series of airstrikes on residential areas in the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine on Tuesday, injuring at least 20 people. At least 50 garages caught fire near another residential building after being struck by the guided bombs. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, and the surrounding region have long been targeted by Russian attacks, but the strikes have become more intense in recent months, hitting civilian and energy infrastructure. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has said Moscow remained open to dialogue and talks to solve the more than 2-year-old conflict. Speaking to China's Xinhua news agency ahead of his visit to Beijing this week, Putin backed China's plan for a peaceful settlement of the Ukraine crisis. He said Beijing had a full understanding of what lay behind the crisis. Beijing put forward a 12-point paper more than a year ago that set out general principles for ending the war, but did not get into specifics. A North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, on Tuesday oversaw a tactical missile weapon system that will be newly installed at missile units of its army. Kim expressed satisfaction with missile system production in the first half of the year and emphasized on maintaining the momentum in its bid to ensure readiness for war. Last week, Kim inspected the country's artillery weapon system and attended the test firing of such weapons. And in a latest tariff increase on an array of Chinese imports imposed by U.S., China has vowed to resolutely defend its interest in the face of huge new tariffs and warned that the trade barriers would affect the wider relationship between the two economic superpowers. China has already criticized the plans. China's Commerce Ministry was opposed to the tariff hikes by the United States and would take measures to defend its interest. The new measures impact $18 billion in Chinese imported goods, including steel and aluminium, semiconductors, batteries, critical minerals, solar cells and cranes. China is deeply dissatisfied with the U.S. abuse of the Section 301 tariff review procedure driven by domestic political concerns and its increase of additional tariffs on certain Chinese products. The move politicizes trade issues and uses them as a tool, as per the statement issued by China. The World Trade Organization has already ruled that the Section 301 tariffs are in violation of WTO regulations, yet the U.S. side has continued its wrongdoing, it said. The U.S. tariff hike goes against the consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries and the promises of U.S. President Joe Biden and will seriously affect the atmosphere of bilateral cooperation, said the statement. Also, earlier on Tuesday, U.S. President Joe Biden imposed heavy tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, solar cells, steel and other goods. These include a 100% tariff on electric vehicles, a 50% tariff on semiconductors and a 25% tariff each on electric vehicle batteries from China. The White House said the measures were a response to unfair policies and intended to protect U.S. jobs.
For too long, it hasn't been fair. For years, the Chinese government has poured state money into Chinese companies across a whole range of industries: steel and aluminum, semiconductors, electric vehicles, solar panels, the industries of the future, and even critical health equipment like gloves and masks. China heavily subsidized all these products, pushing Chinese companies to produce far more than the rest of the world can absorb, and then dumping the excess products onto the market at unfairly low prices, driving other manufacturers around the world out of business.
Well, Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, was back for his second day of testimony at the New York court in the ex-president's hush money trial. He answered prosecutors' questions for about 9 hours on the witness stand on Monday and Tuesday. He testified that Trump ordered him to pay adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016 to stay quiet about an alleged 2006 sexual encounter, lest it torpedo his presidential campaign, and then approved a plan to reimburse Cohen through a series of bogus invoices. And U.S. President Joe Biden took center stage at the 30th Gala of the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies on Tuesday. In his speech, Biden criticized former President Donald Trump's policies, particularly those perceived as discriminatory against immigrants. Biden spoke about his cabinet successes, the importance of supporting the AAPI community, and criticized Trump for comments suggesting Americans should inject themselves with bleach during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The first bill I introduced, the most comprehensive immigration reform bill in decades. That was the first bill I ever introduced when I became president. But this bill had majority, that bipartisan bill has majority support in the House and Senate. But I was told that other guy, that loser, I think he's having trouble. Trump called Republicans and to block that Senate bill, so they have to make sure you don't allow it to get to a vote. But he's wrong. Republicans in Congress must act because it's the right thing to do and America needs it done.
And in the Georgian capital, thousands of protesters shut down a major intersection after Parliament passed the third and final reading of a foreign agents bill. The legislation now faces a likely veto by Georgia's president, which the Parliament can override by holding an additional vote. The foreign agents law, which will require organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as agents of foreign influence. The White House said on Tuesday the United States is deeply troubled by Georgia's foreign agents legislation. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said, "We are deeply troubled by Georgia's legislation. If this legislation passes, this will compel us to fundamentally reassess our relationship with Georgia."
We're deeply troubled by Georgia's Kremlin-style foreign agents legislation, which just passed, as you just stated, Parliament, and we expect the President to veto it. While it is unclear whether Parliament will try to override a potential veto, we have been outspoken about our concerns with the legislation, which runs counter to democratic values and would move Georgia further away from the values of the European Union, and let's not forget also NATO.
Well, in Armenia, thousands of people joined a protest march demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan to step down. Armenian police have detained some 38 people on Tuesday at the protest rally by opposition groups. The protest comes after recently announced border concessions to Azerbaijan. Armenia said last month it would return uninhabited villages as they edge towards a peace deal after fighting 2 wars since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The announcement follows the departure of nearly 2,000 Russian peacekeepers from in and around the Nagorno-Karabakh region, which Azerbaijan returned by force in September last year. And Lawrence Wong will take oath as Singapore's new Prime Minister on Wednesday. Wong will succeed Lee Hsien Loong, the son of the founding father of modern Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. Currently serving as the finance minister, Wong was handpicked by the ruling People's Action Party as the Prime Minister. He'll be Singapore's 4th Prime Minister since its independence in 1965. Starting his career as an economist, Wong entered politics in 2011 but gained prominence in 2020 when he became the co-chair of the COVID task force. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Huge manhunt in France after prison officers killed in ambush. French prosecutor describes it as extreme violence. Floods play havoc in northeastern Argentina and Brazil, displacing hundreds. Untouched after performance in 1995, the iconic artifacts of American band The Grateful Dead goes up for auction in California.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and moving on, the UK Foreign Ministry summoned China's ambassador on Tuesday after 3 people were charged with spying for Hong Kong. The trio were accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service between December and May by agreeing to undertake information gathering, surveillance and acts of deception in Britain. China rejected the allegations and condemned the UK's accusation against the Hong Kong government. DD India's John Bevid reports from London.
Certainly the UK believes that it is very serious, and a statement that we have seen from the Foreign Office certainly reiterates that, as does the very summoning of the Chinese ambassador to the Foreign Office, which is no small step. That is a very bold statement from the UK in terms of what they have described as a pattern of recent behaviour that is unacceptable. The statement from the Foreign Office goes on to say it includes cyber attacks, reports of espionage links and the issuing of bounties. And the Foreign Office again saying that is not acceptable. So certainly strong words from the UK. And of course, as well as those concerns to do with cyber attacks and these espionage links, we had 3 men appearing in court yesterday. They are charged under the National Security Act, and that is all to do with foreign interference on behalf of the Hong Kong government. So certainly the UK taking this very seriously. As you mentioned, though, the Chinese have been very quick to refute this and coming out with a strong statement themselves. The Chinese ambassador saying the series of accusations against China were unwarranted, going on to describe them as groundless and slanderous. So certainly the two sides not backing down from what they believe are very serious accusations. You would imagine that the next step from here would be the expulsion of diplomats, of members of diplomatic staff. But I think it's important to say that I don't think we're at that step yet. Certainly there has been nothing official that could be coming. You would imagine, though, and in similar situations to this in the past with other foreign powers, certainly that is very much the first thing that happens after the summoning of a high-level diplomat.
Well, moving on, in France, a manhunt was launched after gunmen ambushed a prison convoy in Normandy to break out an inmate, killing 2 guards and wounding 3 others. Prisoner Mohamed Amra, known as the Fly, was being taken from court to a prison when a car rammed the prison van at a toll booth. Gunmen then opened fire at prison officers. Several hundred police officers and gendarmes have been deployed to carry out a manhunt. Prosecutors identified the inmate, who was freed as Mohamed Amra, convicted of burglary on May 10th and had been indicted by prosecutors in Marseille for a kidnapping that led to a death. And at least 8 people died after a bus carrying farm laborers in northern Florida collided with a pickup truck. The bus crashed through a fence and overturned after side-swiping the pickup truck and careening off the roadway. A total of 53 people were on the bus at the time of the accident. The other 37 passengers were transported to hospitals for minor injuries. While campaigners in New York City are pushing for a ban of non-essential helicopter rides, they say that thousands of rides taking place each year cause unacceptable levels of noise pollution and air pollution for residents. Some helicopter models produce as much as 950 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions per hour, which advocates say is bad for the planet and people's health. Others, though, question what impact banning rides could have on the lucrative tourism industry. Sally Patterson reports for more.
Clearer skies and quieter lives.
In the past year, there have been 59,000 complaints filed to New York City Council over helicopter noise. Council members here are working on legislation to reduce the environmental and public health impact of non-essential flights.
One idling helicopter is 40 idling cars. We're here as in New York City trying to reduce cars on the road. We're doing all of these protocols around it. We really need to make sure that we continue being an industry leader, a climate change leader.
Yes, helicopter rides are a pull for tourists visiting the city. But those pushing the legislation say the revenue from flights isn't financially worth it.
These 2 helipads owned by the city generate about $2 million in revenue. And, we have a budget of over $110 billion in the city of New York. It is a modest amount of money in the broader scheme of things, but it has a huge negative impact in our communities.
Under current rules, helicopters can be chartered from one of the city's airports as an alternative to taxis or public transport. And several companies offer sightseeing rides for an aerial view of New York's highlights.
In just the 10 minutes or so that we've been standing here, we've seen 8 different helicopters landing behind us. From this heliport in downtown Manhattan, tourists can enjoy a ride across the city for around $250. But people living in the flight path say they're the ones paying the real price.
Mimi Kajina lives just across the East River. She tells me the flights run over her home all day, 7 days a week.
The dishes on the shelves rattle. You can't speak to the person standing next to you in your own home. You have to stop and wait for the helicopter to pass by. For an individual to have the money to harass, basically it's harassment, harass thousands of people every 20 minutes, I think it's wrong.
One of the council's proposed laws would implement a noise tax on flights taking off or landing at the city's heliports.
And if that were done, I estimate that just that tax, which would be passed on to the passengers, would eliminate a third to a half of the demand for helicopters. So it would get rid of as much as a half of helicopter flights.
But in order to outlaw the city's popular helicopter highway, campaigners likely have a choppy ride ahead. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, several areas remain flooded in northeastern Argentina as heavy rains have hit southern Brazil in the recent days. Hundreds displaced by the flooding of the overflowing Uruguay River. The overflowing river has mainly affected the town of Concordia. Local authorities on Monday stated that a total of 167 families comprising of 568 people had been evacuated from the flood-battered region. Also, Brazilian farmers mourns the loss of animals in flood-ravaged southern Brazil. An unusual precipitation has affected the ecosystem of Brazil, leading to the tragic loss of numerous farm animals. Livestock, which forms the backbone of the agricultural economy in this region, has been hard hit. Over millions have been affected due to the constant downpour in the region. Scientists believe the pattern has been intensifying due to climate change. And a large wildfire is slowly approaching the major Canadian oil sands city of Fort McMurray. Around 6,000 people in 4 suburbs have been told to evacuate on Tuesday. The fire, fueled by tinder dry conditions and high winds, had been threatening the city in the western province of Alberta since last week. The fire has grown in size and has flamed more than 10,000 hectares of the region. Well, ChatGPT maker OpenAI has released a new AI model called GPT-4o, capable of realistic voice conversation and able to interact across text and image. Its latest move to stay ahead in a race to dominate the emerging technology. Here's a report.
Nope, that's okay. Could we soon be having real conversations with AI?
I want to introduce you to somebody.
Well, hello there, cutie. What's your name, little fluffball?
This is Bowser.
ChatGPT maker OpenAI has released a new model called GPT-4o, capable of realistic voice conversation and able to interact across text and image.
The hottest temperatures occur around July.
New audio capabilities let users speak to ChatGPT and obtain real-life responses with no delay. They can also interrupt ChatGPT while it is speaking. Both of these new capabilities are hallmarks of realistic conversations that AI voice assistants have found challenging up until now. OpenAI researchers showed off GPT-4o at a live stream event.
So I'm on stage right now, I'm doing a live demo, and frankly, I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Can you help me calm my nerves a little bit?
Oh, you're doing a live demo right now? That's awesome. Just take a deep breath.
In another demo, ChatGPT used its vision and voice capabilities to help a researcher solve a math equation.
Okay, I think it's division. Let me try to divide both sides by 3 and let me see what I get.
Bingo! Go ahead and divide both sides by 3.
Okay, so ChatGPT, this is what I ended up with. How does this look?
It looks perfect. You've solved it, and x equals 1. Nicely done. How do you feel about solving linear equations now?
OpenAI's Chief Technology Officer, Mira Murati, says the new model would be offered for free. She added that paid users of GPT-4o will have greater capacity limits than the free users. Shortly after launching in late 2022, ChatGPT was called the fastest application ever to reach 100 million monthly active users. But OpenAI faces growing competition and pressure to expand the user base of ChatGPT.
Well, in an attempt to compete with OpenAI rivals, Google parent company Alphabet has unveiled beefed-up AI chat box as competition heats up. The new AI features unveiled on Tuesday will help investors evaluate Alphabet's progress as it races against Microsoft, OpenAI and other rivals in emerging technology domain. Google announced improvements to its Gemini Pro 1.5 model that is capable of making sense of a massive amount of data. Google said it was doubling that amount to 2 million tokens, meaning the AI potentially could answer questions when given thousands of pages of text or more than an hour of video to ingest. An American actress, Meryl Streep, was honored at an emotional ceremony as Cannes officially kicked off on Tuesday. Celebrities walked the red carpet into the plush Grand Theatre Lumiere to honor Streep, before settling in to watch this year's opening film, The Second Act. Before her honorary Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival, she was greeted by a thunderous standing ovation.
Chère Juliette, chère Meryl, je vous invite. Bienvenue au 77e Festival de Cannes.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Rescuers have pulled 4 people out of the rubble of collapsed building in Kenya's capital, Mathare, but more people were likely trapped. The sudden collapse of a 5-story building occurred after heavy rain battered the region. Heavy downpour has killed at least 289 people across Kenya. The collapsed building had been partially demolished by officials a week ago, but some residents remained in their apartments. Nobel Prize-winning Canadian actor Alice Munro, whose exquisitely crafted tales made her a globally acclaimed master of short story, passed away at the age of 92. Munro published more than a dozen collections of short stories and was also honored with a Nobel Prize in Literature in 2013. Alice's writing inspired countless writers, and her work leaves an indelible mark on our literary landscape. Some of the most iconic artifacts in an American band, the Grateful Dead, goes up for auction in California. Auction houses are selling off a plethora of items, including frontman Jerry's last touring rig case and notes of the 1972 European tour that was left untouched after the final performance of the band in 1995. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Campaigning in full swing continues ahead of phase 5 of the Indian general elections. 49 seats are going to polls in this phase on May 20th. In a tragic incident, 14 fear trapped in India's Kolihan mine as lift carrying vigilance team crashes. And UNESCO recognizes the importance of Indian texts, including them in memory of the World Regional Register. Which ones? We'll tell you ahead.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lepakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Russia must pay for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction, says the U.S. intends use of Russian assets for the purpose. Putin says open talks on Ukraine. US President Biden slaps new tariffs on Chinese imports. Meanwhile, China vows to take all necessary actions in response. Georgia's foreign agents bill prompts angry reactions at home and abroad. US calls it a Kremlin-style law, warns that if it failed to meet EU standards, relations will be hit. Huge manhunt in France after prison officers killed in ambush. French prosecutor describes it as extreme violence. And Cannes Film Festival kicks off with a screening of French comedy The Second Act and an honorary Palme d'Or for Hollywood actor Meryl Streep. And now we have Laura Westbrook joining us from Hong Kong on Chinese reaction to US tariff hike on its goods. Well, Laura, firstly, I would like to know, after US have imposed this heavy tariff, China warned that the trade barriers would affect the wider relationship between the two economic superpowers. What is the full reaction from China now?
Yes, China has spoken out against this move by President Biden to hike up tariffs on a slew of Chinese imports into the US. These include electric vehicles, to semiconductors, to steel, to aluminium, to medical equipment. When it comes to electric vehicles, tariffs will quadruple to 100%, although it is worth noting that currently the US imports very few electric products. But they've gone far beyond electric vehicles. They've gone, for example, semiconductors. The tariffs will increase to double by the end of this year. And China's Commerce Ministry has come out and called for these tariffs to be removed. And they've said that they will respond with countermeasures. They've said that this goes against the commitment by the US to avoid decoupling with China and to not stem China's own development. And they have warned that this will impact the bilateral relationship between the two countries. And let's not forget that this is an election year in the US, and both candidates, President Biden and his predecessor, Donald Trump, have vowed to get tough on China. So that's a bit of context there for you as well.
Right. Also, Laura, the EV figure, which we've been talking about, while it is headline grabbing, may have more political than practical impact in the US, which imports very few Chinese EVs. How can it impact the industry?
Yes, this all stems from this issue of overcapacity, which the US says that heavily subsidized Chinese goods are being produced more than the world can absorb, and then the excess dumped into the global market at what the US calls unfairly low prices. The US is concerned with how China is propping up its sluggish economy and how it's having this very export-led driven approach. And some experts have warned that these tariffs could backfire. For example, when it comes to lithium batteries, the US at the moment produces very little of its own lithium batteries, and so relies on China to source those batteries, at least in the short term. When it comes to the reaction or what Beijing's response will be, some experts have said that it could be a like-for-like retaliation or targeted retaliation, which could see tariffs on US goods, but we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Thank you so much, Laura, for that update from there. And now let's get you the latest in the world's largest democratic election in India. While campaigning continues to gain momentum ahead of Phase 5 of the Indian general elections, leaders from various political parties will be holding rallies on Wednesday. 49 seats are going to polls in this phase on the 20th of May. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding a road show in Mumbai in Maharashtra state. He is also scheduled to address 2 public meetings in the state. BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will address a rally in West Bengal. BJP candidate and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is scheduled to address a rally in Lucknow. Singh is seeking a 3rd term as a Member of Parliament from the constituency. Opposition Congress leader Rahul Gandhi will participate in a bike rally in Odisha. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi is scheduled to hold election campaigns in Uttar Pradesh state. While Aam Aadmi Party Supremo and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal will be attending a public meeting in UP's Lucknow. And for more, we have our correspondents joining us from the ground with us, Shishir Cheller from Mumbai and Gautam Roy from Leh. Well, Shishir, my first question to you. A major part of Mumbai goes to polls in the 5th phase. How is the political dynamics shaping up there with intense campaigning now on?
Well, absolutely. As we enter to the 5th phase, now the 5th phase includes some of the important cities, and Mumbai is also one of them. That's the reason we have seen that the political action has shifted to Mumbai. We have seen in Maharashtra, the election was held in almost 5 phases. Now the last phase is going on in Maharashtra, and we have turned into the metropolis, that is Mumbai. Apart from Mumbai, there'll be Thane also, Bhiwandi. These are the areas we'll be going for the polls, and that's the reason we have seen some of the big star campaigners from across all the parties are now reaching Mumbai, holding press conferences and rallies also. The Prime Minister today will have a roadshow in Mumbai, and that's the reason arrangements have been done by the political parties here, especially from the NDA allies. Nearly thousands of people probably gather for this roadshow. Apart from that, the opposition leaders are also conducting press conferences and rallies in and around Mumbai, including the suburban areas as well. And that's the reason that the political action shifted to Mumbai. Well, this time around, as I told you, that Mumbai is being the epicenter for the elections here, and that's the reason the issues related to it will definitely play an important role. Now, obviously, in Maharashtra, there are 6 major parties are in fray, and those parties are divided into 2 camps here. One is the India, and the other one is Indie Alliance, and probably both the parties actually trying to get hard to get the maximum numbers. Now, talking about the Mumbai's equation, let me tell you that Mumbai, once known as the bastion of the Shiv Sena, the Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, but since the split in his party, now this contest has become quite important one and interesting one as well, because we have seen the 2 factions of Shiv Sena. At the same time, we have seen the 2 factions of NCP will be fighting against each other. But in Mumbai, the direct fight we're going to see is between the BJP and the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray camp along with the Congress, because Congress is also contesting a couple of seats in Mumbai. Well, as far as the seat sharing is concerned, especially in the Mumbai region, the Uddhav Thackeray Sena and the Congress was once at a loggerhead, because both the parties wanted their own share of the seats here. But finally, the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray has managed to get some of the important and the maximum number of seats here. Talking about the India Alliance, the NDA Alliance have also seen here got a quite good numbers in seats. BJP has managed to get almost 3 seats in Mumbai out of 6. Apart from that, the Shiv Sena will also be contesting on a couple of seats in Mumbai here. And that's the reason this contest we want to see is quite a triangular contest between the BJP and both the faction of Shiv Sena.
Yes. Also, my next question to you, Gautam. These elections are the first elections to be held in Ladakh. You are in Leh right now. After the separating of territory from Jammu and Kashmir under the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019 and granting it the separate union territory status. Contesting there for a single seat, what's the political scene?
Well, it's a chilly morning right now, Nipakshi, in Leh, and as you mentioned, it's 7 degrees Celsius right now. As you mentioned, it's a a single seat here in Ladakh, but Ladakh is the largest, area-wise, the largest constituency in the entire country in India. And just to put it in context, it's much larger than the entire Kashmir Valley. And the politics here has changed through the years. Initially, it was the Congress that used to dominate, but towards the end of the 90s, other forces started to have some sort of precedence over here. A lot of independents also won for the last two times in 2019 and 2014. The BJP has had narrow margins of victory here. But this time around, there is, of course, since you mentioned the abrogation of Article 370 and the Reorganization Act, it's a union territory, but there has been a demand for greater autonomy in Ladakh as well, even statehood. And that is one of the dominating sort of issues here, because everything kind of stems from it, the kind of identity Ladakh is seeking for itself. So which is why what is happening this time around is that it's become a three-way fight. The BJP has replaced its sitting MP with Tashi Gyaltsen, and the Congress and the NC have come together to put up Sainik Namgyal. But the Kargil unit of the Congress and the NC have revolted, and they're backing an independent who used to be in the NC. It's quite complicated, Mohammad Hanifa. And, Leh and Kargil are the two different districts of entire region of Ladakh. Yes. And they have a different politics because Leh is Buddhist dominated and Ladakh is Muslim dominated. So it's going to be quite a fight. It's a triangular fight. And the BJP, the central government, after the abrogation of Article 370, has been pushing a lot on the developmental agenda. They've built roads. They've made concerted efforts to make Ladakh carbon neutral. Water heaters, solar water heaters have been distributed among people by the council here, Leh Council. They're trying to come up with solar fields as well, to set up power stations from solar fields, use of hydel resources as well. Roads have been developed because this is a very sensitive area as well. With one side there's China and the other side there's Pakistan. So that is another factor that is playing out over here. So a very interesting contest that will be playing out till the 20th when this region votes along with the rest of the country in the fifth phase.
All right. Thank you so much, Gautam and Shishir, for that update from there. And moving on, now let's take a look at other stories making news today. At least 14 people are feared trapped in India's Kolihan mine in Rajasthan state. The incident took place after lift carrying vigilance team crashed in the late hours of Tuesday. Rescue operation is underway. Ambulances have been rushed to the spot and doctors have been asked to prepare for any situation. A major road accident was reported in India's southern state of Andhra Pradesh. 4 people were reported dead and several others were injured after a speeding bus rammed into a tractor carrying labourers. Major fire broke out in India's Bali-Tirshi block of Udhampur Forest Range during the early hours of Wednesday. The efforts to douse the fire are underway by the Forest Department officials. Reason for the fire is yet to be ascertained. Security forces, including the army and the police, launched a search operation in Jakhole-Jutana forest area of India's Jammu and Kashmir. The operation was conducted after local residents noticed a group of heavily armed men in the village. In a proud moment for India and Indians, Ramcharitmanas, Panchtantra and Sarhadaya Loka Lokana have been included in UNESCO's Memory of the World Asia Pacific Regional Register. The inclusion confirms India's rich literary heritage and cultural legacy and signifies the global cultural preservation efforts. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Wall Street rises after Fed Chair's comments. All eyes now on crucial consumer inflation report on Wednesday. In IPL, Rajasthan Royals hope to book knockout stage berth. Play against Punjab Kings today, who hold the bottom place. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken picked up a red guitar during Kyiv visit with a message for Ukraine. Stay tuned to know what's that.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back and on to the business news now. Wall Street's main indexes all advanced on Tuesday and the Nasdaq scored a record closing high. The record surge comes as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell reassured investors while they digested Tuesday's data and waited for Wednesday's crucial consumer inflation report. U.S. producer prices increased more than expected in April as the cost of services and goods rose sharply, leading traders to reduce bets of a first rate cut in September. The S&P 500 gained 0.48%, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.75%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.32%. And the increase in the U.S. cost of production more than expected in April indicate that inflation remained stubbornly high early in the second quarter. The report from the Labor Department on Tuesday also showed wholesale goods prices rising solidly last month as producer price index for final demand rose by 0.5% last month after falling in March. The followed recent surveys showing a significant increase in inflation expectations, prompting traders to trim bets for a September interest rate cut from the Federal Reserve. And Asian markets trade high ahead of key release of key inflation data by the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 index was up by nearly 140 points. However, the Shanghai Composite fell by 0.38%. In the Indian markets, the Sensex was hovering around 73,000 points, while the Nifty was at around 22,000 points. The best performing sectors included metal and FMCG. And a group of TikTok creators have filed a suit in the U.S. federal court seeking to block a law signed by President Joe Biden that would force the divestment of short video app used by 170 million Americans or ban it. The TikTok users, who include a hip-hop artist and a Marine Corps veteran who sells ranch products, said the law endangered free speech. The U.S. Justice Department has said the TikTok law addresses critical national security concerns. Last week, TikTok and its Chinese parent company ByteDance filed a similar lawsuit, arguing that the law violates the U.S. Constitution. An American automotive company, Tesla, opens new lab plans to lay off an additional 601 employees from California. Amid falling sales and intensifying price competition, Tesla CEO Elon Musk said on April 15th that the company would lay off more than 10% of its global workforce. The electric vehicle maker has conducted several rounds of job cuts since then. The latest layoff plan would affect employees at Tesla's facilities in Palo Alto and Fremont, California. And in sports news, Erling Haaland's double put Manchester City within touching distance of an unprecedented fourth successive Premier League title as they beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-0 on Tuesday. The Norwegian tapped home his side's opener early in the second half and settled City's nerves in stoppage time when he blasted home a penalty for his 27th league goal of the season. City had failed to earn a point or score a goal in their first 4 league visits to Tottenham's new stadium, but ended that jinx in timely fashion to the joy of their supporters. Pep Guardiola's City have 88 points to Arsenal's 86 and will be guaranteed to become the first side to win 4 English titles in a row if they beat West Ham United at home on Sunday, when Arsenal must beat Everton and hope for the best. And in the Indian Premier League, Rajasthan Royals will look to confirm their place in the playoffs when they take on Punjab Kings in Guwahati on Wednesday. The Royals have come close multiple times to book their place in the knockout stage, but have not been successful so far. They come into this contest on the back of 3 consecutive losses. A win will easily take them to the playoff stage, and a loss will keep them waiting for their last match. The Royals will be without the services of Jos Buttler, who's returned to England to gear up for the upcoming T20 World Cup. They are currently at the 2nd spot in the points table. On the other hand, Punjab Kings are out of reckoning in the tournament as they hold the bottom place. They'll pay for their pride. Also, Delhi Capitals kept their playoff dreams alive with a 19-run victory over Lucknow Super Giants in Delhi. Tristan Stubbs and Abhishek Parel guided Delhi Capitals to a big total of 208 for the loss of 4 wickets. In chase, Lucknow Super Giants could only manage 189 for the loss of 9, despite half-centuries from Nicholas Pooran and Arshad Khan. Pacer Ishant Sharma rocked Super Giants inside the power play, picking 3 wickets and leaving the Lucknow-based franchise struggling at 4 for 44. The pacer dismissed KL Rahul, Quinton de Kock and Deepak Hooda early in the innings. Arshad Khan then threatened to close the game with his 33-ball 58, but it wasn't enough for Super Giants to get 2 points. Delhi Capitals will now have to depend on other results in order to qualify for the playoffs, while Super Giants still have a game in hand, but their net run rate can prove to be a big problem. An American, Tommy Paul, upset 2nd seed and defending champion Dylan Medvedev in Rome to advance to the Italian Open quarter-finals. The 14th seed needed just an hour and 15 minutes to erase past his Russian opponent 6-1, 6-4 and set up a last 8 meeting with Poland's Hubert Hurkacz. German 3rd seed Alexander Zverev beat Portugal's Nuno Borges 6-2, 7-5 and will next face American Taylor Fritz, who claimed a 6-2, 6-7, 6-1 victory over Grigor Dimitrov of Bulgaria. Alejandro Tabilo came out on top in a close match against Karen Khachanov of Russia, with the Chilean winning 7-6, 7-6 to set up an encounter with China's Zhang Zhenzhen, who beat Thiago Monteiro of Brazil 7-6, 6-3. The final quarter-final places were filled by Stefanos Tsitsipas and Nicholas Jarry. And 2-time champion Iga Swiatek eased into the Italian Open semi-finals with a 6-1, 6-3 win over 18th seed Madison Keys. Swiatek will face American 3rd seed Coco Gauff for a spot in the final. The quarter-final in Rome was a repeat of Swiatek's recent semi-final clash with America's Keys in Madrid, which ended with the same scoreline. Swiatek is aiming to win her 4th title this year, having already won the Qatar Open, Indian Wells and the Madrid Open. In the remaining quarterfinals on Wednesday, world number 2 Aryna Sabalenka will face 9th seed Jelena Ostapenko before Victoria Azarenka plays American 13th seed Danielle Collins. And the Indo-Australian duo of Rohan Bopanna and Matthew Ebden crashed out of the Italian Open. The Indo-Australian pair lost in straight sets 2-6, 4-6 to the Italian duo of Simone Bolelli and Andrea Vavasori in the pre-quarter finals. The duo conceded 5 break points, and that turned out to be a crucial factor in the context of the game. The latest defeat extends their struggles to 3 tournaments. They have been unable to find their rhythm on the slower surface, and their struggles are a cause for concern as the French Open approaches. The duo had a strong start of the season, claiming the Australian Open and Miami Open titles on hard courts. However, the teamwork seems to have faltered on clay courts. And Tokyo Olympian Manu Bhaker and Vijayveer Sidhu have won the 4th and final Olympic selection trial in 25-meter pistol events. Manu shot a world record equaling 42 in the women's 25-meter pistol T4 final, while Vijayveer shot 34 in the decider of the men's 25-meter rapid-fire pistol T4 to emerge triumphant. Manu was also the only shooter among the selected 5 to have not gone below 580 in the qualification round even once. In the men's rapid-fire pistol final, Vijayveer took the lead after the second 5-shot series and held on till the 8th and final series to register his first outright victory in the trials. And U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Tuesday picked up a red guitar at a basement bar in Kyiv with a message for Ukraine, that the U.S. and much of the world was fighting not just for Ukraine, but for the free world. They played Neil Young's Rockin' in the Free World, a rock anthem released in 1989, just before the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Colors of the street.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.